Welcome back to the Isaac Baruch cross-examination breakdown. In part one, we saw Isaac begin to assert control over the cross-exam from the very first moments of the process. Here in part two, we're going to look at how he uses this control now that he's begun to establish, and he uses that to assert dominance over Elaine. He does this by taking away her most valuable weapon so far, her Amica cream attack. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump you to the next day for a few, and then I'm going to come back. But let's go to the next day. So the next day, you testified that you saw her twice, correct?
From Sunday? No, Monday.
So right out of the gate, we're continuing to see the same patterns that we saw in part one. He is not letting Elaine put words in his mouth. He's suspicious of her. And it's not uncommon for a lawyer to try to trip the witness up over details about when did certain things happen, what was the order of events, especially at this point, we're 6 years out now from the events that Isaac is describing. So it's pretty normal for somebody to lose some of those finer details back in the fuzzy mists of time. But Isaac is making it clear that accuracy is very, very important. The order in which things happened was important. He does remember them. He's not going to let her trip him up. Elaine continues to be caught off guard by Isaac responding in this assertive fashion. Once again, her head is knocked back. I just love this body language from her because it is a visual representation of being caught by surprise. In the boxing ring, what happens sometimes if you come forward with your head up, hands down, and aren't prepared for what your opponent is going to do? Pop! You catch a jab right in the forehead, knocks your head back. Exactly like Elaine is doing here. She got caught with a jab. She's continuing to get caught with these jabs, and she has not yet learned how to adjust.
So once in the morning, I want to
That's when
say
she
around
came
12.
by to ask if you could have the key, or that you could leave the key for the house.
Right, for Hilda.
And you weren't feeling well, right?
That's right.
Okay, so you wouldn't have been standing very close to Amber, right? Because you were sick?
Elaine is continuing to ask these terrible questions that don't need to be asked. What this is beginning to show is that the process of cross-examination for Elaine is not about the substance of what she has to offer. It is merely about the engagement. She is there to show this quibbling, frankly, with Isaac over his credibility, I suppose. She seems to be implying here that his recounting is not accurate because, surely nobody would be close enough to a person to see a bruise if they're sick. But this isn't logically intuitive or necessary. It's just a bad line of attack. And so this is beginning to emphasize that Elaine potentially doesn't understand what makes an effective cross-examination. The thing that you learn in a combat sport is that if you get in the ring and you engage, you're gonna get hit. In cross-examination, the biggest challenge is to go in, get your information in that is critical for this witness, and get the hell out, sit your ass down before you get hurt. But Elaine isn't learning this. She's not applying this rule. She's trying to engage with Isaac in the hopes that she's going to get some kind of win, some kind of dunk, but it just isn't working. And you can see, again, from the expressions that Isaac is so open with, that he's not impressed by this, not intimidated by it, perfectly happy to continue asserting his account, and he doesn't think that anything she's saying makes it look unreasonable.
Well, I opened up the door and I'm holding the door. We're like 3 feet away from each other. Yeah.
Okay, and you told her you were sick, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you
And we see Isaac continue to be open, expressive. He even leans back in this one because he's so comfortable with this answer. I mean, yeah, that's what happened. It's logical. Obviously, she's right in front of the door when I opened the door. Where else did you think she was going to be, Elaine? Where did you think I was going to be? Did I open the door from 20 feet away in the other room? Of course not.
know where she was going out someplace, correct?
She was going somewhere.
All
Yeah.
right.
She wasn't going to be there.
All right. Do you know whether she had applied any Amica cream that morning?
In part one, we established the script. She did it twice just in that approximately 6-minute section of the examination. This is now the third time that we are going to go through this script with the Amica cream, foundation, concealer, powder, tint. Again, this is not a particularly strong script. It's easily established that he doesn't know her day-to-day makeup routine. So there's a couple of problems with the approach that Elaine is taking here. First off, if it's not a very strong weapon in the first place, you're diluting its effectiveness the more times you go back to it. This isn't a situation where she's got a killer piece of information, such as, for example, here's Amber Heard on audio admitting to Johnny Depp, where you're going to try to bring that up and play it and highlight it again and again and again because it is just so damaging to the other side's case. This is just a tactic that she's got, and I look at it as a weapon. The problem in combat is if you show your weapon too many times, particularly if it's not a very powerful weapon, it becomes very, very easy to take that weapon away. When you get into the boxing ring and you come out with your jabs, okay, you better make those jabs hard and fast and strong, because if you come out there with a weak, sloppy jab, you only need to see it a few times before you've got the timing down. You see their tells, you know that it's coming, and as soon as they're ready to pop it out, boom, you're coming in with your counter shot. So this is getting set up for Isaac to take this weapon away from her.
To her face.
No.
Do you know whether she had applied any concealer to her face that morning?
No.
Do you know whether she had applied any foundation that morning?
No.
Do you know whether she had applied any tint that morning?
No.
Do you know whether she had applied any powder that morning?
No.
And we're seeing from how Isaac is answering these questions with the blinks, the small smile, the just low, short no, that he's continuing to communicate how unimpressed he is with these particular questions. He knows that they're not landing. Isaac is a very, very smart man. He's just watching her put this out. This isn't hurting him at all. This is not undermining his testimony. So he can go ahead and comfortably sit here and just take that, because it's giving him information and he is preparing to be able to use that against her.
Now, the next day...
I can tell you, she looked like she wasn't wearing any makeup.
Right.
And there it is. This is his second counter shot so far in this cross-examination. In part one, when she asked about the hair, he was able to volunteer no makeup. And now he's doing it again. He's got her timed. He's got her figured out. She's making a big deal about, well, you don't know for sure that she didn't have any makeup on her. But Isaac is perfectly comfortable saying, looked pretty obvious to me that she didn't have any makeup on. And so he's now seeing this opening that she's giving him when she's talking about the makeup repeatedly. He's going to just go ahead and continue to volunteer. Didn't look like she was wearing any makeup. That's the point of my cross-examination. You haven't figured out an effective way to undermine that. So now, I'm just going to go ahead and drop in my counter.
And would you agree that people who are models and actors can be pretty darn good with putting makeup on so that you can't tell they're wearing makeup?
Elaine's off script again. She's got to try to recover because she's not prepared for these counter shots. This cross-examination is not going the way that she scripted it. It almost looks like Elaine's vision of cross-examination is a Hollywood version of a movie trial where people are compliant with what you're asking, where people only answer the question that you're putting to them, and when you invite them to elaborate, they give you the information that you're looking for. In real life, that's not how trials work. People are very, very unpredictable. Isaac has already established he is dangerous. These tactics are not going to work with him. So once he's countered her, she knows that hurt. She has to try to regain her composure for the jury, regain some kind of competitiveness in this exchange. But she doesn't know how to do that. Do you think people who are actors are pretty darn good at putting on makeup to where you wouldn't know? The jury can either make this inference for themselves based on the information that they've already heard, or that you, Elaine, should be putting on for them in your case in chief. But you asking Isaac to speculate about what actors might or might not know about makeup, it is just not helpful. It's not compelling. Nobody expects him to know exactly what actors know about makeup. It's not effective, continuing to not undermine his core point here. She looked like she was wearing no makeup at all, and she had no bruises.
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation, cause for speculation.
I think that's a fair question to ask him.
I'll sustain as a speculation. Next.
Elaine is so uncomfortable with having to adjust her strategy on the fly that she can't even defend the question that she asked. Well, I think that's a pretty fair question. This is not a legal argument for the admissibility of what you've just tried to accomplish here. Elaine is very, very uncomfortable. She's off her game, and it's starting to show. You can almost physically see her having got caught, stumbling back toward the ropes, trying to catch herself. Judge Azcarati is not throwing her a safety line.
All right.
Next question.
Do you have any knowledge of the skills of Amber Heard with respect to putting on makeup?
Well, it can't be that good because she's got a friend who is a makeup artist who came over to do makeup, but I don't really know.
And continuing to try to recover on this makeup point, she goes back to the point that she's already made. Isaac doesn't know what her makeup routine is. But see, Isaac is learning now. We've had about 10 minutes of them engaging, and so he's starting to get comfortable with what she's asking. He's already thought about this stuff that she asked him 5 minutes ago, the very first time. By repeating it, she is showing him her hand, and he is able to take the information that he's already learned and counter her. So now he's able to volunteer this answer. She had other people do her makeup for her, so obviously she wasn't doing her own makeup when she goes out to these big events and stuff like that. So she's clearly not a professional makeup artist. That's a really good point, because when it comes to covering swelling, covering abrasions, severe, redness, bruising, things like that, you have to assume that the common person is going to be thinking that's probably some higher level makeup skills than to just, put on your daily face and, get your eyes on, all that type of thing. So Isaac is not allowing Elaine to recover here. He's continuing to apply the pressure to keep her off balance. Very effective.
Right, and that makeup artist that comes over does it when she's going to be on some show or in some big public event or gala, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makeup person, and you're talking about Melanie Iglesias, right? That
Right,
makeup-
yeah, exactly.
Okay, and that
Exactly.
makeup person doesn't put Amber's makeup on every day for her, does she?
I wouldn't know.
How many times did you see Melanie Iglesias put makeup on Amber?
One time.
Okay,
It's just one time.
okay. So she wasn't living at Amber's house, right?
No. I hung out with her and her husband and Johnny and Amber and over there one time eating and then another time it was when I met her that seeing her do makeup for these guys.
I'm not sure that this line of questioning established quite what Elaine thought it was. She is trying to get to the point that Amber, on a day-to-day basis, does her own makeup. But all she's really established here is that Amber, on a day-to-day basis, does not wear makeup to a professional level, the way that somebody like Melanie Iglesias would apply it. I don't know that that was really the inference she was trying to get out there in front of the jury, but that's what she chose to ask, so that's what she got.
Okay, so you're not saying that Amber doesn't know how to put makeup on herself?
And here we are again, just hammering on what we already know and have established multiple times. Isaac doesn't have personal knowledge of Amber's makeup abilities. We already know this, Elaine. There is no need to continue to revisit this. You are wasting time and you're just starting to annoy people because we all got things to do. Why don't we go ahead and move it along to something that's important? It's starting to become evident that there is nothing important in this cross-examination with Isaac because she would have already gotten to that point instead of repeating over and over and over again, gee, Isaac, you don't know what Amber Heard knows about putting on makeup. Thank you. That doesn't make her statements not defamatory. So can we do something else now?
Correct?
Oh no, I'm sure she does.
Okay. But again,
I would think she does, But for the most, I'll tell you what, over 3.5 years, living around.
And Isaac has continued to learn from Elaine. Elaine is not learning. Elaine will not let go of whatever it is she's trying to get to come out of Isaac's mouth. I don't know why she's doing this because the point has been made, but it's almost like she has this compulsion to try to get something specific from him before she's going to let that go. On cross-examination, if there's something like that, you need to just put that word in their mouth. You need to have an effective way to do that that is reasonable and it's fair and that you can back up with your own evidence. Because if all of those things are in place, the witness will accept what you have to say. And then if they don't accept what you have to say, you can simply show them the evidence that you have that substantiates what you're putting in their mouth. And then either they'll accept it to look reasonable in front of the jury, or they won't accept it and the jury will see she's made a pretty reasonable argument here. I don't know why this witness isn't accepting it. Maybe that's going to call this witness's credibility into question. But she's not. She's just continuing to pump this weak-ass, lazy jab. And Isaac has already hammered her a couple times. She's not learning. He's about to do it again.
Around each other. For the most part, she's not a makeup-wearing person, completely natural. Her, Rocky, total great complexion, Texas natural girl next door. No makeup wearing, hanging out.
Did Amber ever?
And so by allowing him to continue to explain and elaborate, because she has invited this with her questioning, now Isaac has been able to fill in more details, okay? Not only has he seen her frequently over the course of 3 years, but he has perceived a pattern in how she presents herself and in her makeup wearing practices. She typically doesn't wear makeup. He's used to seeing her without makeup. That means if he did see her with makeup on, that would be unusual. He would be more likely to notice that. He's now been able to bolster the testimony that he's already given about not seeing a bruise by emphasizing how much more likely it would have been that had she tried to wear makeup to cover up injuries, that would have been something different from what he's used to seeing. So he's more likely to have noticed it.
Tell you she was not wearing makeup?
Did she ever tell me?
In any of those three and a
When?
half years that you're saying she wasn't wearing it around the house, did she ever say, I don't have a stitch of makeup on?
Still trying to recover, still pretty much caught on the ropes. If you think that the only way Isaac can tell if she has any makeup on is if Amber says something about it, you just don't have a good understanding of people's common sense engagements with reality. Isaac has lived next to this woman for 3 years, like he just explained. He's seen her in all kinds of different contexts, in all types of different styles and costumes and makeup. He is going to know when something is different. So this insistence on trying to get him to say apparently that, you know, his own perception is somehow unreliable, he's never going to say that. He thinks his perception is reliable. That's something you have to argue to the jury. You have to have some fact that you can put in front of him that he will accept, that you can then use to argue to the jury that his perception is not reliable. But she hasn't been able to bring forth anything like that. So they're just continuing in this back and forth quibble that is not going to be productive for Elaine because he's never going to give her what she wants.
As many times as she's told me I am wearing makeup, which is, I can't remember. So I don't know. Yeah, no. There's not one time I remember that or saying that.
Okay. So now let's go to the next day. I think that's the day you've got the 2 times that you saw her. She's with other people.
Yeah.
And she's either going out or coming in, correct?
Well, first time they're coming in, and the second time they're going out.
So one thing that's happening here as well that I think is worth drawing attention to, that's a very bad strategy on cross-examination, is reminding the jury of the substantive things that they testified to in their direct. What Isaac had to say in his direct examination is not beneficial to Amber's case. He says he saw her multiple times between this May 21st and May 27th when she got the restraining order. Up close, no injury, nothing that at all resembled what she, wore to the court for her TRO hearing. You don't need or want to remind the jury of all of those details. It's not in your interest to do that. But her strategy here of just engaging with him for the purpose of engagement rather than because she has something substantive that she's trying to elicit means that all she can really do is go back and forth with him over what he said on direct examination, reminding the jury of those details. And in the absence of something really powerful to make that questionable, all she's doing is reminding the jury he had really important and damaging things to say.
So they've been out someplace before they're coming in, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation.
I'll allow it. You can answer the question, sir.
Oh, I have no clue.
So here, I can't be certain, but it does look like Isaac is starting to learn how to read the lawyers. He understands the objection and he took the cue there. The objection was to foundation, meaning how is this witness supposed to know what you're asking? You haven't laid a basis to conclude that he would have any knowledge of what she was doing, where she had been, had she been anywhere. And Isaac seems to have maybe picked up on that. It could be simply that he was going to answer that anyway. He doesn't know. I mean, I think that's probably the truth. But he saw that the lawyer made the objection to foundation. He understands what that means. And so when it's his turn to answer, he's able to mirror that suggestion and indicate, yeah, how would I know? I don't know.
Okay. But they're physically entering the house. In other words, they haven't been in the house, they're coming to the house from someplace, right?
Oh, I would have no idea. When I walked out, who knows? They might have been out and twice before that, but I don't know. They could be coming from another apartment, coming, to go there. And I'm seeing them, it could be the second time that they're entering this apartment, or the first time, or the third time. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
And now Isaac is going to elaborate on what a poor job Elaine has done with establishing the foundation for this type of question. He's going to explain all the possible places they could have been and why he wouldn't know, sitting in his own apartment, which one of those options was actually correct. This, again, is a factor of Elaine's bad strategy. If you want the jury to hear that he doesn't know where they were, she should just ask him to confirm you didn't know where they were, right? She doesn't need to try to teach him where they were to get him to accept that and parrot that. That's not his job as a witness. That's her job as an attorney when she's putting on her case in chief to present evidence of where was Amber at this time? Where was she coming from? How did this encounter unfold? But Isaac isn't expected to know that, and continuing to try to push him into accepting her account is not working, because Isaac isn't at all shy about acknowledging what he doesn't know. And as we see here, explaining why it would be ridiculous to think that he would have that knowledge.
I have no idea.
And do you know, so you don't know where they were?
Yes, Elaine, you should have just started with that instead of taking us through this rather convoluted path to get to this important point of you don't know where they were.
No,
And
of
so you
course
have
not.
no idea whether they were out in public someplace, correct?
Which is what he just said. Doesn't know. I don't know why we're hammering on this. Is it important for some reason? If it is, we aren't getting a sense of why that would be.
No, of course not. I won't know that.
All right. And then the later time that you saw them that day, they were going out. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know whether Amber had any Amica cream on that day?
Are we still keeping count? This is the fourth time. Fourth time she showed the Amica cream. I wonder if his answer is going to be any different. Do you think maybe this time Isaac knew she had put the Amica cream on? Maybe he saw her put the Amica cream on this time? Do you think maybe that's what he's going to say? Is the jury going to be impressed by any of this? Hearing for the fourth time that he doesn't know about her Amica cream? What do you think?
I don't know.
And I'll try to make this faster. Do you know whether Amber was wearing concealer, foundation, powder, or tint that day?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, the next day, I think you said it was she and Whitney. Is that correct?
On Wednesday, yeah.
Okay.
Again, clarifying, making sure that we are all on the same page about the order of events. Very important detail. So he's going to make sure it's correct, and Elaine does not get this out in any way that could then be twisted or distorted or misrepresented to the jury.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, do you know whether she was wearing any Amica cream?
Fifth time she's shown this lazy ass jab. Isaac's going to take this opportunity.
Sir, if you could just answer
I'm
this
sorry.
question.
I'm totally sorry. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you, sir.
That, no.
I love this. I just love this reaction. There are very few things as powerful in the world as mockery. Everybody loves when something stupid is just exposed as the sham that it is. And for him to take this joy in that was mirrored in the courtroom as you can hear the audience laughing along with him. You have to wonder, is the jury over there trying to control themselves as well? This was such a beautiful thing. First off, I don't think he did this on purpose. This wasn't like he was sitting up there thinking to himself, "Oh, I'm gonna do something snide in response to this question." He's just doing what comes naturally to him. And by this point, the fifth time he's seen this, it's just become ridiculous. And he, as an open and expressive witness, is going to just allow himself to express that. I love that while he drew the admonishment from the judge, it was obviously not a stern admonishment. You have to wonder if there's a little bit of a sense here that Judge Azkarate kind of gets it. Maybe would have chuckled herself under some different circumstances, but she's got the decorum of the courtroom to maintain, so she does have to get things back under control. But then Isaac has this very sincere and humble expression of, I'm so sorry, I couldn't help it. The absurdity got a hold of me, and I couldn't deal with that. Wasn't trying to be disrespectful in any way. It's just the fact that her questions are so stupid, Your Honor. Beautiful conclusion to this section of Isaac Baruch's cross-examination breakdown. With this laugh, he has taken away the Amica cream. This is no longer going to be an effective weapon for Elaine to the extent it really ever was. He has exposed it for the ridiculous, scripted, unimportant nonsense that it is. And that takes away all of its power. Laughing in its face shows he's not scared of it, not intimidated by it. Everyone knows it doesn't matter. Everyone in the courtroom who laughed along agreed with me. This was a thing of beauty, and it was a massive, massive mistake on Elaine's part to allow this to happen. In part 3, we're going to see how Elaine remains tied to the script, even though it is not giving her what she is hoping to achieve by using it. But she has no backup plan, and she has no ability to adjust on the fly to what this witness is actually presenting. So as a result of that, she inadvertently allows Isaac to bolster his own testimony and his credibility with the jury by demonstrating the massive degree of detail that he remembers about these incidents that he's recounting as his testimony. Join me there.